빵, 빵. 김정일이하고 이런 총 쏘는 거, 태권도 하는 거 이거 많이 즐겨서.
I personally even experienced watching public execution. I was only 11 around. Hundreds of crowd people gathered.
North Korea might be one of the harshest places to live, but it's also one of the most mysterious. Whether you're an elite or you live in the countryside, North Korea has tough conditions for everyone. Kim Jong-un, the current leader, always has his bodyguards to protect him. But after escaping, a former North Korean bodyguard breaks his silence, shocking everyone. He reveals all that he experienced while working for Kim Jong-un and his father, including his escape attempt, his time in a labor camp, and what North Korea's leader is really like behind closed doors. Selection process. The first question that he was asked was, "What's it like being a bodyguard in North Korea?" And the answer will surprise you. The Kim family has been in charge of North Korea for generations, starting with Kim Jong-il, and now Kim Jong-un is the current leader of the country. But to maintain their power and continue the dictatorship, they have a very tight grip on the country. If anyone defies them and many of their ridiculous rules, they use labor camps to punish them, forcing everyone to obey them because of the consequences. People can end up in these camps for things as minor as making an international call or watching a South Korean movie. Many of their laws are vague, too, making it easy for anyone to be sent to the labor camp. Another way Kim Jong-un maintains his authority and dictatorship, aside from the labor camps, is with a special team of bodyguards. He has surrounded himself with these bodyguards. This isn't just a normal security detail, but it is called the Supreme Guard Command, and was made by his father, Kim Jong-il, after multiple coup attempts. His father realized that he would be overthrown if he didn't have a team protecting him closely. The Supreme Guard Command has very high standards for choosing its members, and the elite force is in charge of protecting the entire Kim family so that no one would be a threat to them. In the beginning, it had about 200 men, all of which were handpicked to make sure they were completely loyal to the regime and to prevent any threats. In fact, the bodyguard team is so exclusive that the recruiting process takes a long time, and it's very intense and secretive. They start by choosing strong men from high schools across the country. It sounds a bit like the same way Kim Jong-un chooses the women for his pleasure squad. A shocking team that consists of 25 virgins selected each year to entertain him. During the selection process, the recruits would be inspected to check their physical shape. There must be no facial scars, and their bodies should be muscled and well-proportioned. But they don't only check their physical condition, but also their family background. If a member of a recruit's family has ever left the regime or just attempted to escape, or showed any other form of disloyalty, that recruit is rejected, even if they didn't do it directly. They also check the songbun, which shows whether the person's family is considered trustworthy enough to serve the Kim family. Once a person is unlucky enough to be selected, they are given an ID card, and their previous identity would be erased. There would be no more contact with their families or friends, and they have to leave their whole lives behind. They have to do this job for a lifetime, and there's no chance of going back to their loved ones. What's more, only one person from a family can join the bodyguard team. Once one person has been chosen, no one else in the family has a chance. In a shocking turn of events, a former bodyguard, Lee Yang-guk, who had worked for Kim Jong-il and even Kim Jong-un, surprised everyone when he broke his silence and shared some details about the time he spent as a bodyguard for the Kim family. In fact, he tried to escape twice, but the first time caused him to get trapped in one of the worst labor camps. But he also revealed the way they used to train the bodyguards, and it wasn't easy at all. Rigorous training. After his escape, Lee Yang-guk surprised everyone when he exposed the way North Koreans brutally trained him and his fellow guards before they could become a part of the Supreme Guard Command. The training wasn't easy at all, and the focus was to make them very loyal to the regime, but this ended up breaking their spirit. When Lee first joined the Bodyguard team, he was in a rush to prove his worth so that he would be accepted to the command. But the competition was a lot, with 100 others vying for similar spots. The Supreme Guard Command made all the recruits read and memorize a 300-page training manual, which included all the previous security incidents so that the recruits knew what they were up against. Imagine having to read such a long manual. Aside from the basic physical fitness tests, the recruits had to go through tough training for 2 years. This included training camps where they took courses in different forms of martial arts, marksmanship, and endurance. They had to go on 25-kilometer marches wearing full gear and also underwent strict tech training. One of the most important parts of the training process was marksmanship. Key revealed that all the bodyguards must be able to shoot accurately if they wanted to protect the dictator properly. Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un's father, was often asked to watch the training himself. He liked seeing them shoot and practice martial arts, as this made him feel assured about being protected. To perform for him, the bodyguards often broke bricks with their hands. Lee was also able to break 11 bricks at once, and he showed off the scar on his right palm. You might think they were just looking impressive and showing off, but the training was more than just displaying for their boss. It was grueling and sometimes inhumane. They were forced to break light bulbs with a finger, headbutt stacks of tiles, and smash granite slabs with their chest. This was meant to show that they could easily withstand extreme pressure. This seems pretty strange, but the North Korean government uses videos of their bodyguards training as a form of propaganda, showing the strength of their security. Aside from this tough physical training, the bodyguards went through other military forms of training like target practice, weight training, swimming, and tactical exercises. But according to Lee, this brutal training wasn't just about getting them ready for war, but also to keep them completely loyal to the government. The bodyguards were made to think that by being loyal and strong, they could always protect the Kim family, even against the U.S. military. But everyone knows that in a real fight, you won't be asked to break granite or light bulbs. Still, the bodyguards were trained to become slaying machines that would protect the North Korean leader no matter what. But they couldn't become like this without a little brainwashing. Brainwashing, the training for North Korea's elite bodyguards, isn't just about physical strength and learning combat skills. The martial arts, endurance exercises, and tactical training are hard, but they won't be complete without brainwashing. In North Korea, there's brainwashing everywhere, not only in the bodyguards team, and the tool that makes this happen is propaganda. Whether it's television or radio broadcast, anywhere you have media in North Korea, the regime's message is always being reinforced. Because of this, the Kim family is seen as gods in the minds of the people. That's because the brainwashing and propaganda starts from a young age. Every public space, school, and workplace has to have portraits of Kim Jong-un and the previous leaders. What's more, it's compulsory for every North Korean to hang their portraits in a prominent place in their home. If they are caught not hanging the pictures, or they put the pictures too low, they end up doing hard labor in a labor camp. In fact, a North Korean woman once found herself in a shocking situation where her house caught fire. She rushed in to save her 2 children, but she couldn't save the portraits of the Kim family, and ended up arrested. Lee revealed that a major part of his training involved being brainwashed. He exposed the way the bodyguards were tricked into being so devoted in the Kim family, and he wishes he could warn others before it's too late. He and the other bodyguards didn't only learn to protect the Kim family, but they worshipped him as a divine figure. He, along with other bodyguards, were trained to think that Kim Jong-il was a god, not a man, and so his safety was the most important. So, their sole purpose as bodyguards was to protect the leader. They even thought that their lives were meaningless without the mission to protect the leader. It's not only bodyguards that are brainwashed in North Korea. From a young age, children in school learn that the ruling Kim family is all-powerful and divine. All this training and thoughts are put in their mind from a young age, so once they grow up, they become fiercely loyal and share the same hatred for other countries. Once some of these children grow up to become bodyguards, they would have already been exposed to the propaganda for many years and will continue to glorify the Kim family. Lee also revealed that the bodyguards were always enthusiastic about their mission because they thought it was their sacred responsibility. They never asked any questions when they were asked to do something, no matter how crazy it sounded to them sometimes. With the brainwashing, the bodyguards didn't hesitate to sacrifice their lives for the Kim leader, and they saw it as an honor. They felt like protecting the leader was more of a divine cause than simply a job. With this, it wasn't easy at all to be a bodyguard, especially with how stressful the North Korean environment is. High-stress environment. Living in North Korea isn't easy at all, and then imagine being a bodyguard to someone as powerful and unpredictable as Kim Jong-un. It's not only about protecting the most dangerous man in the most secretive, poverty-stricken countries of the world, as you constantly have to face danger, stress, and paranoia. That was the life of Lee Yang-guk in North Korea. His job was very high stakes, and the bodyguards were always on alert. If they made a mistake, it could cost them their lives, or, surprisingly worse, they would have to spend years in one of the horrible labor camps. In fact, if you were doing your job properly, but found yourself face-to-face with the leader that was in a bad mood, you could still end up in trouble. Imagine working for Kim Jong-il and ending up in a labor camp because he was in a bad mood. In fact, he used to execute his workers or officials because he was feeling bad. So making a mistake while working for the North Korean government didn't mean you could get fired and go home. Instead, it led to a lifetime of hard labor for you and possibly your entire family, regardless of how young your children were. Aside from the physical risks, there was always a problem of assassination. The Kim family has become a target, whether it's for internal enemies or the external forces. South Korea is always a risk to North Korea. So the bodyguards found themselves briefed in so-called assassination attempts all the time, whether they were just rumors, and they had to be on high alert at all times. To make matters worse, these bodyguards were under constant surveillance. The regime's paranoia meant that everyone, including the bodyguards, was always being watched. There was no room for mistakes, and any sign of disloyalty could lead to severe punishment. Lee shared how the bodyguards couldn't trust anyone, not even each other. They were encouraged to report on one another for the smallest infraction. This kind of environment made it difficult to form any bonds or friendships, and trust was a rare commodity. Even before Kim Jong-il took control of the country, Lee had been serving the government. He became a personal bodyguard from 1978 to 1988, protecting the heir to the throne, Kim Jong-un. After this, he continued to be loyal and took on work as a military advisor, but he could no longer handle the pressure of North Korean life. Defection, suffering, and new life. By 1994, Lee realized that he didn't want to spend the rest of his life in North Korea. He wanted to escape, but he was always under surveillance, so it was pretty much impossible to escape. Like many others in North Korea, he was caught before he could escape. Even if he had been loyal to the regime for many years, they still had eyes on him, like they do for many others. When he wanted to escape, he was the vice director of the military department in the city of Musan, North Hamgyong province. He was a high-ranking member of the regime, but he wanted to escape. So he fled to China and wanted to find a way to go to South Korea. His plan failed when he got caught in China, and China is known for sending defectors back to North Korea instead of providing them refuge. So, he was back to the country that he tried to escape, and ended up in the Yodok political prison camp in South Hamgyong province. Known as Camp 15, Yodok is known as one of the most cruel and inhumane camps in the country. It's a place where the government locks up people seen as enemies of the state. Most times, they don't even put them through a trial before locking them up, or they torture them first. And in camps like this, the entire family of the offender would be sent to the camp too, even if they are just little children. For Lee, who was a high-ranking official, trying to escape was seen as a major betrayal against the Kim regime. He later revealed after he had escaped that he suffered horrific torture during the 5 years at Yodok. His body, covered in scars, was a testament to the beatings and suffering he endured while imprisoned at the camp. Lee showed scars on his legs, dozens of purple crisscross marks where he had been beaten with sticks or rifles. He also revealed his dentures, showing that he had only 5 or 6 remaining teeth, all of which were cracked and worn down. These were the results of countless beatings by guards, who would punch him in the head and use the butt of their rifles to strike him. The abuse left him blind in one eye. Lee was not only affected by the physical torture. Everyone else was also going through tough conditions, and he described the inmates as skeletons. He realized that he would soon become like that. There was barely any food in the camp, and the guards barely fed the prisoners. The little food that they got was only given after they completed their labor for the day. So without enough food, the inmates were so weak that they moved around without raising their heads. He also explained how hunger became a constant part of their existence. As they went without food, their bodies began to waste away. Lee's own body weight dropped drastically as he lost nearly half his body weight during his time in the camp. He explained how, as the days passed, the prisoners' bodies became skeletal, with faces and limbs looking like dried-out bones. It was a cycle of constant starvation, physical labor, and abuse. Another shocking revelation that Lee found out when in the camp was the flower garden. But it's not a beautiful place, as you might think. It was actually a mass grave, with the bodies of many dead prisoners dumped there. Whenever a prisoner died, the other inmates had to carry the dead bodies and bury them in the garden. Lee did the same too. The garden held tens of thousands of bodies, and the camp members had to pass by these every day while worrying about their lives. Eventually, Lee was released after 5 years because he had good behavior. Still, he had to deal with all the physical and psychological scars. By 2000, he managed to escape again, this time successfully, and found himself in South Korea with his family. He became a duck farmer living a quiet life without looking over his shoulder. He also wrote a book about his experiences in North Korea, exposing how brutal the regime was and all the things he witnessed. One of the shocking revelations was Kim Jong-un's lifestyle and nature. Kim Jong-un's lifestyle. Lee revealed chilling insights into North Korea's ruling family. He described Kim Jong-il as paranoid and ruthless, demanding total loyalty and replacing bodyguards at the slightest suspicion of disloyalty. Life in the elite Supreme Guard Command was tense and dangerous, where a single mistake could mean death. Lee was indoctrinated from a young age to view the Kim family as godlike, with his sole purpose being their protection. But it was Kim Jong-un who shocked Lee the most. While his father was brutal, Kim Jong-un was even more dangerous, deeply insecure, and driven by fear. Lee described his impulsive behavior, explosive temper, and obsession with luxury, contrasting sharply with the suffering of ordinary North Koreans. Despite being groomed in isolation, Kim Jong-un grew more erratic and cruel, punishing even minor infractions with death or exile. Lee testified before the United Nations, exposing the Kim family's extreme lifestyle, like Kim Jong-un reportedly owning 14 luxury retreats, while the population faces famine and political prison camps. Meanwhile, the entire nation has no idea how their leaders live. North Korea's government does everything they can to create a fake, perfect image of their leaders and the outside world. For someone like Lee, he was taken from his normal life to become a bodyguard in a system where a little mistake could cost him his life. And eventually, he did all he could to get away. What would you have done if you were Lee? Let's know your thoughts in the comments. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.